Step one is to draw your quantum memoir thought form, which is basically just the fruit of life with the 7 seed words in it. So that's what I'm going to do first. I'm going to look for the center of my page. I'm going to put my little template down here. You could use a compass to do this. You could trace caps or other circular objects to do this, whatever resonates with you. You can even just draw it by hand. It doesn't have to be perfect circles. That's a whole exercise in itself. So I'm just going to make the quantum memoir thought form as my structure, my formula for what I'm about to explore. Now I have the 13 spheres of the fruit of life pattern. I'm going to write the 7 seed words in the inner spheres here. The first one is purpose, then ground, intend, observe, connect, express, and refine. So these 7 words create a formula, which is basically the life and death cycle of nature. It's how something grows and dies. So I'm going to use these keywords, these 7 seed words, to explore my purpose. And then I'm going to use the relationship between the words to derive even more meaning from whatever it is that I research and or like intuit and download and put over here in my multi-dimensional note area. And then I'm going to take those most important, potent ideas, and then I'll feed it into the actual 7 spheres right here. So this is going to be a demonstration of how you would do that. And I'm going to do it by literally doing what is interesting to me at this time, which is the idea of selling or marketing. I'm working with a lot of different people on starting their things, their lifestyle or their products, their brands, their businesses. And this is something that I used to do. I used to have this business called Via Marketing, which was by way of. So I like words, right? So via means by way of, and my company was called marketing. So my idea was that you would be able to reach your potential customers or your community by way of marketing. So what I'm doing is I'm seeing this word that Trainfarb or Jacques is using and his philosophy, his process of how he's taking the quantum memoir formula, this thought form, and translating it into his own system and philosophy of teaching and helping people, reaching people, connecting communities. And he's using the word sell, but he also very much in his drawings and his art, his illustrations, his cartooning, he draws this little cell, this little blurb guy that I'm not even going to do justice to, right? But there's this little guy. And so this little guy is kind of like maybe the guru or the leader through this journey of philosophy that he's sharing with everybody. So because I'm hung up on the word selling and marketing, I no longer have this company because I'm disenfranchised with the concept of marketing. It's coming forward again because he's using this word. So what I want to do is find out, what is my resistance? What is my aggravation about the idea of marketing and selling? Because it's actually the thing that's prohibited from me connecting to more people and sharing this, because I'm in this idea of what I'd rather do is reciprocity. This is reciprocity. This is kind of like what I'm trying to do now, which this is what I did in my past. So I'm trying to figure out, how can I do and then I'll receive, instead of make something that someone will buy and then I receive. So I'm trying to play and experiment with the process of how we go to market with the thing that we love to do. Not to do it for the money, but to do it because you love doing it, which is what I do. I love doing the quantum memoir. So how can I bring that to market and sell it to people? Let it grow into a community, into a new thing for them, instead of selling it in that older way of marketing, where you're convincing somebody to buy your product because you need money. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this thought form and this multi-dimensional note page. I'm going to extract these concepts for myself, so that I'm actually, you know, this is something for me, but I'm showing it to you, I'm demonstrating it, because maybe you'll get inspiration and ideas about what I research and what I intuit it. But also it might demonstrate how you would find your own purpose and then go about exploring the idea around your own purpose. So hopefully this video works out being a kind of like a twofold art project. So let's dive in and see how it goes. The first thing I'm seeing is my purpose. So because I'm talking about these two words, I'm gonna put the cell, the little cell, the cellular on top, because I feel more favorable about this word than this word, cell. But I don't know the etymology of these words, so that's where I'm gonna start. I'm gonna go and look at Eddy online. I'm gonna find the etymology of each one of these words, and then I'm gonna intuit. How do I feel about that word? What does that overall sense of feeling give to me? And then I'll see where it takes me. So, next step. So once you've drawn your thought form and you've found your purpose that you're going to explore, and you've somehow illustrated or articulated that in the purpose sphere, now you're going to go ahead and you're going to start using your note page and exploring this concept and, you know, extracting ideas from YouTube videos, online articles, books that you might have, music, intuitive hits, or perhaps even just this quantum memoir. This might inspire you to go ahead and explore it for yourself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this website called eddymmonline.com. And sometimes I might also use like Webster's or the encyclopedia to look up what a word means. But Eddy M Online is pretty much my go-to for a quick reference of like what the word has meant throughout history, or at least a documented sort of history. So I'm going to go ahead and look up the word. I'll start with this one, S-E-L-L. So there's a verb and a noun. So we'll start with the verb. And the verb is to give. I like that so far. I would like to give something to someone, furnish, supply, lend, surrender, give up, deliver to, or promise. So there's nothing that's talking about an exchange for energy or money or trade of any other material, you know, service, material object or service. It's just about giving is really what I'm seeing. Supply, lend. So I'm just going to write the words that seem important and stand out to me. Surrender, deliver, to. So that's the verb, to give. The action of selling is to give, to supply, to lend, surrender, or deliver to. To hand over, deliver, to give, hand over, to offer a sacrifice, to take or to grasp. Meaning to give up for money, accept a price or reward had emerged by the late Old English, but in Chaucer's selle still can mean to give. So it's suggesting to me that at some point the word meant to give, and then eventually with some sort of Old English it became give for exchange of money. Old English word for sell, to buy. So it became the concept. I'll put later became offer to buy. So to me, it seems like the word originally meant to give or supply somebody with something. And then later it developed into the idea of that you're giving them something to buy in exchange for something else. The meaning, betray for gain, is from the 1200s. Slang meaning to swindle is from the 1590s. So as I start to look at the etymology of words, I know that like prior to the 1200s and 1300s, they're a little bit less coded or infiltrated into like spells of the modern world. And then usually by the 13 to the 1500s, you could start to see that switch of the context of words meaning something very simple and naive, like natural, and then they've been switched into something that has like double meaning or has a bit more of a possibly negative connotation to it. To sell off, dispose of by sale, is by the 1700s. To sell one's soul, make a contract with the devil, is the 1570s. So you can see, kind of gives you different ideas of how the word has been used over time. And so it became a noun, or it's noted as a noun, in 1838. A hoax or planned deception by which a victim is taken in. And so this is the word, this is the feeling that when I hear the word, when I hear it, I'm going to put it in quotes. When I hear the word sell, this is what I'm feeling, this like modern sense that somebody is trying to convince you that you need to buy the thing that they're selling, not because it necessarily benefits you, like the snake oil. It's because it benefits them to receive the funds for it. So I'm trying to separate this concept of this modern colonialized capitalistic idea of selling something to make money, and really making it into more of like the natural sense of giving the supply that you have, taking it to market, and then if somebody's interested in it, they will consume it, and there will be some sort of reciprocity or trade. So that's my idea of sell. So what I would do is I'm going to take this link, I'm going to copy it. So this will be my sell citation links. And then I'll add these to the web post on the quantummemoir.com website. There's a community in there. I'll post a picture of this thought form and then any of these links that are shared in this video. So if you want to go and explore them for yourself, you can. So now what I'll do is I'll go back to the website, eddiemonline.com, and I'll look up the other way of sell, C-E-L-L, and see what it tells me. So a sell as a noun, put this one as a noun, early 1200s, small monastery, subordinate monastery. So small room for a monk or a nun in a monastic establishment, a hermit's dwelling. I love that. Okay, so this is what resonates with me. A hermit's dwelling. So this is not exactly what I had in mind when I was thinking about the word cell. I'm thinking of biology, but it's showing me that in the 1200s, really the concept of how I could think of a cell is the small room that a religious figurehead spiritual person would be in, likely, you know, as a hermit. There's not a lot of other people there in there with them, right? It's kind of like a solitary confinement. It seems. So solitary confinement, why is that? That seems like a strange statement for me to say in the context of what we're doing. So I'm just going to leave a little thought bubble that this little guy is talking about solitary confinement, that this cell is not a cell like biology, but really a cell like a prison or a box, something that you're kind of trapped in and you can't get out of. So for example, Earth could be considered as biology, a cell, a life living form that's part of a larger life, or people could see this cell as a prison, as a box that they can't not get out of, and that they are not enjoying, that they're trapped inside of without their, you know, their will or their respect to have it done. So this is interesting how this word then is completely separate in the context from, you know, what I was originally approaching it as, and it's really pointing out these two other perspectives for me. So let's keep going. Small room, a hut, to hide or conceal, to cover, conceal, or save. This is very strange. Cover or conceal. Again, I'm searching for the biology concept of the cell, like cellular, but I'm getting this other kind of idea of what this word cell means. A prison room was extended in 1722. So again, it was kind of started out as like a religious context, a room that a hermit or like a priest type of person would be in. And then by the 1700s, it became a prison room, compartments. And then in the 1700s, it became biology. Okay, so the word was used in 1400s of brain compartments. Okay, so here we go. It looks like maybe the earliest was brain compartments. So again, still not the type of cell that I was conceiving, compartments. But they're actually talking about like the parts of the brain as the abode of some faculty. I like that. The abode. So again, there's that concept of room. So it's like a room of your faculties. So I'm imagining that the faculty is like your ability to think or imagine, like maybe even your expressions of anger or love. It was used in biology of 17th century of various cavities, wood structures, segments of fruit, bee combs, gradually focusing to the modern sense of a basic structure of all living organisms. So then it became something that it was basically the segments of structure. Segments of structure. So it seems that the word became originally about a room, a physical space that a being would dwell in, to then using it as segments of structure for biology, such as the brain or fruit, it said, or bee hives, bee combs. So I can see then how this word has changed over time, gradually focusing on the modern sense of, this is where I was getting to, was the modern sense of basic structure. And then the electric battery sense is from the 1800s, based on the idea of compartments again. So this is really, this word cell has a lot to do with compartmentalization, I see. Compartmentalization. And when I think of that, and I think of like marketing, it's kind of like your different plans, like the different parts of, you know, maybe your visual aspect, the text aspect, the customer service aspect. You know, there's like different components of a plan that you put together, like different aspects of time, a short goal, a month, a long goal, a year, that you have all these compartments of cells that you put together that, in fact, okay, so let's see that. These are cells, okay? Each one of the spheres in the quantum memoir thought form is a cell. It's a prison or a box, a dwelling space, right? It's a concept, it's a structure, a segment of a larger structure. So then you could see that each one of these thought forms could be considered a cell, a structure, a form that leads to adding many of them up, you know, multiples of them up to the book. And then the book is a cell or a structure with all of these micros, right? You know, within. And then the same thing with the universe, that without, like how I suggested that Earth is a cell, you know. If this is Earth and it's a cell, then these are all of the people and beings that are smaller cells that make up that larger organism. So now I have this brainstorming of the idea of the words, like what do the words mean? I'm going to sit with those, just going to kind of let them simmer and meditate. And then I'm going to see what kind of things pop up for me in relationship to marketing and reciprocity. And what is it that I'm experiencing with myself professionally and personally? If you know, how I want to help the people that I'm helping and how I want to help myself with this concept of really creating your lifestyle and then living it in a way that it inspires others. And here there's an airplane going over, which is really interesting because I read somebody's post earlier and it said that when there's a sound like an airplane or a large sound or sirens, it really is a synchronicity to tell you to pay attention to what it is that you're saying. So in this aspect of the plane taking flight, I realize whatever I'm sharing right now is very powerful. It actually seems like it's part of my waning gibbous lunar phase, which is to take flight. That airplane is calling my attention, a synchronicity that I'm kind of like on the right path and that I now need to take flight. I need to lift off and, you know, go explore, go travel with this concept. So it's all very symbolic, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to digest that and I'm going to integrate it into something tangible here. So let's see what happens next. Okay, so what comes up for me between the word sell and sell is this idea that you're giving, and this idea of cell, this biology, is this life structure, this life organism. So I'm thinking it's to give life force. To me, this is what this idea of selling is representative of in a very natural and literal way. That if I'm selling something myself, like this really all I could sell is my experience, my perspective, then what that is to give life force. I'm doing that to give life force. I'm expressing myself. That gives me life force. But then ideally, because I'm doing it in a loving, you know, kind of like a progressive way, it would also potentially give life force to somebody else. Unless they're rejecting it because it's uncomfortable for them, then it might actually like bring them down. And then that's kind of where we get into this conflict that they're not really wanting what I'm selling. Even if it would be favorable for them, they're rejecting the idea of what I'm selling. So I hear that there's some kind of observation that I could dive into. But first, let me go ahead and put this thought down before I forget what it is, which is to, I don't know, it just started to turn out like it was around. So now I'm thinking that this is like a cyclical thing. To give life force, like to spin energy, to weave energy in a way that I put energy out and then it is consumed, seen, or left behind, and then something comes back to me, and it's like a washing machine. It just keeps, you know, agitating and spinning to clean the ideas, you know, and that's in a way maybe potentially like sort of evolution where we just keep taking old ideas, reliving them, you know, repurposing them, and that's what becomes our future, but always in the now moment. So now is standing up in my attention now. All right, so let's see where we are now. We have this idea, this observation that I want to sell something. I want to give the life force of what I love to do, my art. And then there's this concept that I have that it would be valuable for all people on the planet. And then I have to realize that even if that were the case, that doesn't mean that I have to directly impact all people on the planet. I could just be this one cell that touches this cell, and then that cell touches the other cell. This was something that somebody in the Our Story group mentioned about a month or two ago. This idea that like we don't all have to touch nodes. Our nodes touch another node that might impact, you know, the ones down the line. And this is something that Train Farb reminded me of today in our one-on-one conversation. So now I'm thinking the intention, I'm kind of moving away from observation. I'm thinking that my intention is somehow, no, it's still observation. I don't have to help everybody in order to actually help everybody. I might not be everybody's cup of soup. They might like a different flavor, and that's okay. So even though if I have a life force to give, if somebody doesn't want it, even if it would be for their best, you know, for their better good, like here's an orange, eat it, the vitamin C would be good for you. If they don't want it, it wouldn't be good for them. So I have to just kind of let go, surrender, right? If I'm selling something, I have to surrender that not everybody is going to want to buy, you know, to consume what it is that I'm offering, that I'm giving this life force. So again, this observation has something about who am I selling to? And that's really not something that I can decide, you know, in my concepts. Like I know marketing, you try to think of your target audience and you assume these things and you research and blah, blah, blah. But for me, it seems more like my observation would be like, who is it that is benefiting and resonating with what I do? And that group just gets smaller and smaller, where originally I thought it was like everybody. And then I'm like, okay, no, it's actually people that are so down on the bottom of what they're doing that they really only have anywhere to go but up, and they want to try it, right? And then no, actually it's the people that are actually wanting to do something, like they have the will, like they know they're there and they have the will to build up from where they're at. So then like my audience gets smaller and smaller in this compartmentalization. Sure, I might want to help everybody, but then I'm compartmentalizing the cell of, well, these are actually the people that want my help. And then, well, even out of all the people that want my help, here's the ones that would actually do something about it, that would put the effort and the discipline and the time and potentially the money into what it is that they would get as the resultant from going through the process. Okay, so now I have to take that rambling, that pondering, that intuitive download and conceive if I'm working on my intention or my observation, or maybe I'm kind of getting a vibe between both. So let me just sit for a second and see what this is telling me. Okay, so what I'm hearing is favorable reciprocity. This is what I want. I want it to be a win-win situation for somebody. If win-win, not W-H-E-N, W-I-N, This is a win-win situation. Whoever I'm in this exchange relationship with, this, biology, these cells are connected, or I'm selling my, philosophy or my passion to somebody, I want it to be a win-win thing. I want the reciprocity to be favorable. I don't want to sell something, give something to somebody that I wouldn't get something in return, even if it's not directly from them. I would want that, the idea of good begets good. I want whatever I'm giving to somebody else be favorable and well and healthy enough that the universe is going to reciprocate. I'm going to magnetize wellness back to me. I don't want to be giving out shit because I don't want shit to come back to me. So when I'm saying favorable reciprocity, it doesn't have to literally be with the guy that I'm selling to. It could be returned to me via the universe. So I'm going to put favorable reciprocity, and then I'm going to put, balanced in the universe. That's what I think I'm going to put. Okay, so I'm feeling like as I'm writing this, it's probably impossible for something to be out of balance in the universe. That's probably the whole point of the universe, that on a large enough cycle of time, not a year, not even anything that's conceivable in the human mind, I'm sure things are balanced and equalized. But still, for a symbolic concept, what I'm trying to say is that I would like to sell my relationship, my connection with the, the compartmentalized people that actually want to do something about the fact that there's something that needs to be done, like breaking down, my target market. I want favorable reciprocity with those people that would be balanced, in the universe, where I don't mind if I give my space and time to somebody without it being a certain dollar amount or a certain type of trade, that, we're going to work that out. Really what's happening is that you're a universe here and I'm a universe here, and for some reason our universes are touching, these cells are touching, and we're discovering and exploring what's happening, with that union. And that in that you're becoming a whole of something else. You're able to create a larger field, more entanglement, and get a greater perspective, of what life is about. Your experience is going to broaden. So in that way, I'm always in this favorable reciprocity. It just gets to the point, now come into my observation, that, okay, now the reciprocity is not balanced and equalized. I have gotten into many of those situations where, okay, now I'm giving more than I'm receiving, so I need to reevaluate. That's one of the words that I use here, evaluate. This thing that I'm selling, did I oversell it? Okay, so am I selling properly? Is my method, I think this has to do with clarity is what I'm hearing, the word clarity. So let me sit with that a second and hear it. All right, so I'm hearing a question. This is Bodhi. He likes to put questions for the observe sphere. Am I offering what's proper? It's not a very good sentence, but am I... So it's almost like two questions. What is proper? So one question is, what is proper? What should I be offering? Perhaps I'm offering more than I should, like I'm being a people pleaser. So I'm over offering what I should. I'm overextending myself away. That is not proper. So what I'm selling ends up not being equalized with the other person because I didn't recognize that I was overgiving in the upfront forego, that eventually I exhaust my energy. And then I come to this observation, this evaluation that, oh, this reciprocity isn't working because I didn't market myself properly. I didn't recognize what it is that I actually have to offer. So, this is where working with Jacques and Train Farb comes in, because he's really helping you clarify this compartmentalization. I have the formula, but what are you going to do with the formula? How are you going to break down what it is that you actually are offering and who you're offering it to and how you're offering it, So we're really getting into all these questions. I know that he started using questions in his observed sphere as well. So the question that I'm going to observe, I'm going to gather information around, is, am I offering what is proper? Am I overextending myself? I'm seeing that over here in this prison and box area. So you can see how this had nothing to do with what I'm about to say now, but it actually relates. Am I creating a prison in a box because I'm over offering what I should be offering? I'm overextending. Am I overextending myself? And I would say yes, but I'm going to say that's also not a bad thing. I recognize that my trigger or my practice of overextending myself stems because of my shadow, because of my unconscious, because of something I'm not necessarily aware of. But as I've started to exercise that and then become aware that, okay, now I'm giving too much, this reciprocity is not balanced and equalized, I need to do something about it, I pull back, now I get to learn something. So there's value in overextending myself, because then I get to practice or experiment with what it is that I'm selling and offering, like what I'm building or creating. I love experimenting. And then I get to break it. I get to break what it was that I was thinking that I was selling or doing, and then I'm refining it, and then I'm putting it to market again, and I'm trying it again. Like my courses, I keep putting them out there on different platforms and kind of like finessing them, adding graphics to them. And then each time, ideally, the product or the service gets better and better because I've actually taken it to market. I've tried it out with real human beings and real life experiences. So this idea of observing that, is what I'm offering proper? Potentially no, but that doesn't mean it's bad or wrong, because then I'll get the value, the lesson from this experience. There's a lesson in it. Okay, so now set that aside and see where we're at. So I'm seeing that, because later I will not remember why I had that. So I'm going to write, ask a question. And whenever I see the word question, the word quest stands out. In my philosophy, if you question yourself or other people, what you're doing is you're opening up a doorway for answers to come through. And the answers might not be the truth or a fact, but they might be, like I said, that next step, that next experiment or practice that gives you a lesson and understanding that takes you down to the road of the actual truth or answer. Like correct answer. So in a way, I guess I play with the answers. I'm going to write that. Play with answers. Okay, so now let's go to connect sphere. Connect is where I appreciate others. And clearly, right off the top of my head, what comes up here is Train Farb. Because if it wasn't for Train Farb, for Jacques, I wouldn't be exploring this word right now. And I think I have explored it in the past a couple years ago. I could probably go back and see how this has changed over time. But, you know, he's bringing up in me something that the universe keeps tapping at my door via marketing, by way of marketing, telling me, hey, you have this skill, you have this education, you have this experience, why don't you put it to use? But I'm very resistant about it. So that's what this is about, is why am I resistant to selling? Why am I resistant to selling? And there's an answer. There's probably lots of answers. They could be excuses, they could be reasons, they could be practical or not, but there's this resistance that I have to selling. And the reason I'm going to put Jacques here is because he is helping me look at different perspectives of marketing and selling that are not the version that I was conceiving, you know, this idea of selling something to make money. So he's very much in tune with nature and wanting to make the world a better place. So then I feel comfortable and safe of having this conversation about marketing and selling and how would be, you know, favorable natural ways for people to go about it. So our philosophies are kind of bridging this answer potentially for other people in the future. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put train farb here. And I know that he has this really cool way that he does his name, but I don't know if that's it. Some kind of symbol like that. Train farb. So you could follow him on Instagram. Jacques. So this is who I'm appreciating, who I'm connecting with, who I'm learning with. Like, I teach him, he learns from me. He teaches me, and I learn from him. So we really have this collaboration of co-creation. Okay, so then what I'm seeing in this relationship, this symbology of this thought form, is that that's what cells do. So if this is Jacques and this is Molly, these cells are in a co-creative environment that they're creating a larger organism. So he and I together, along with several other people, create this organism of our story. And that's a cell, right? That's something that is an organized structure that supports, you know, everything kind of supports and keeps everything together. So in a way, I'm really seeing this as like a glue and a magnetism, that instead of me being my own little island over here, if I radiate out this selling, right, to give to other people like Jacques, and he does the same for me, we're creating a larger field of magnetism that now more oranges could come and be a part of, right? Just to kind of make it fun. You can kind of see that there's this organic structure to ideas and brainstorming and planning, but it's also all in nature innately. So all we're doing is, you know, we're just taking an orange and dissecting it, looking at how it's built and functions and relates to other parts. And then we're doing that, you know, in our story with Jacques and myself and Bodhi and several other people. We're doing that, putting our stories together so that we can be this larger organism, right? That our magnetism creates reciprocity with each other, but then it also invites, like I said, other oranges to come along. Okay, so then our story. So Jacques and I, in this selling concept, you know, we bumped into each other likely on Instagram through hashtags. You know, it's been several years now. And in that relationship, it was just he and I communicating about these ideas at first. And then we would go away for months, and then we might come together for a couple weeks. And then, you know, so we were having this like breathing, living kind of experience with how do our things play together. And more recently, they've been, you know, very much entangled and linked. And that's because of this thing that he's doing called Our Story. And his Our Story is not really his story. It's literally your story and my story and his story. So I see that as the cell. That this little blurb guy, this little blurb He's a cell, and all of these cells make together a larger story. So one cell would not make a story. In a sense, there would be no other characters or background for him to have experience within, and then that is not life, right? If you only have this and there is nothing else, where's the friction? Where's the movement? But because we have two of these cells coming together, you know, like if you literally think of cells merging and splitting, then we have life. Then we have a story. Then we have three things. So this comes to my mind, that you have these 3 points. Like I said, the two oranges come together and then they make a third thing, which inevitably gives you direction. If you only have these two things, then you kind of have a static plane. You know, you have a horizon, but you have no movement. So this third thing, in a way, gives the story, the direction to your story. So what I'm seeing is like, I don't know how this translates for other people. To me, this all is incredibly valuable and it all totally makes sense. But I recognize that a lot of it is just like maybe metaphysical or conceptual, that it's not practical enough. So let me know if I would need to articulate what this would be in a practical way, like how you could apply it to your actual life for it to be useful. Because what I'm doing when I'm doing it, I know that's all unlocking inside of me. And then days to come, this is going to, you know, turn and grow into the next things that I'm doing. But as you step away from this video, if you don't know how to actually apply that, this might not evolve or grow as much as it could unless you put the effort into, you know, adding the action into it yourself, like create one or find what the practical aspect is and apply it to your life so that you can add it to your story and create that direction, you know, for that favorable outcome. Okay, so let me pause and see what I will do for my express sphere. Okay. So what this all like kind of stems from, like I said, is a conversation that I've had today, literally with Jacques, but one that's been ongoing with him and other people, you know, over the years, which is that how do you put your thing to market, but don't do it in such a selling way that you're just trying to do it for money and you're not actually doing it for the joy of the thing. So when I think about what the express is in this conversation today is that we all need money. Like we have to have money in this world. And like, I know this firsthand from this experience of leaving the colonized world, living off grid, you know, not living in a house, not even living with an address, having, you know, completely being a gypsy. I understand that it's impossible to completely unplug from that world unless you were going to go live in Alaska and literally live off the land and be completely hidden. You wouldn't be able to have a P.O. box or the internet or anything like that. You would basically be like a Sasquatch out in the woods. Otherwise, there's some aspect to this world that we have to plug into and be a part of. And that's been my struggle. If you saw the White Rabbit thought form that I did, there's a video on it. This colonized world has like really got a grip on me. And so I've been trying to experiment with how do I sell something without selling it to just make money. But even though I do need money to live, to pay for food that I need to buy, you know, pay for gasoline and car insurance, there's some of the expenses that you can't get around from, you know, living at least in America. You know, I don't live in another country at this time, so I don't know what it's like elsewhere, but I know what it's like here in multiple states, and it's really difficult to unplug without money. So this is what I'm expressing. I'm trying to convey awareness that I recognize we have to sell to some capacity. Like you're selling yourself, you're selling your ideas, you're selling your passions, or you're selling a product or service or something, but like you're broadcasting, hey, I'm a comedian, I'm an actor, I'm a life coach, I'm, you know, a McDonald's worker, whatever it is that you're doing something and you're receiving money for it so that you can make, you know, pay your bills so you can live. So how can we do this in a more favorable, loving way to our planet, to others, not to force what we want to sell them on them, but that they actually are going to be receiving a good product. What I want to declare is that it's okay to need income. It's okay to sell. It's okay to go to market. It's okay to have a passion that you build up, like a painting or a work of art or a book, or I don't know, whatever it is that you love to do, healing other people, making music, making movies, that you're doing this and it's incoming to you, that it's reciprocal to you. So in a way that you're actually receiving money. So I'm going to write income. This is what I want to express. But I feel like that's not enough. What I'm seeing, and this is going to be not what I want to put in alignment here, but I was trying to figure out how can I put the dollar sign inside this word income. And then what I see is it actually becomes sincome, S-I-N come. And so there's that feeling of like, it's bad to make money. It's wrong to cheat and swindle people. That other idea of the 1700s to cover or conceal up to sell something. That how can I break that feeling that having an income is bad? Like, or not having an income is bad. So let me tell you a little story, perhaps. Let's see. What do you do for a living? This is another question. So, what? I had this, oh my gosh, I don't even know if I could write why I say this. I'm going to try to say this in the most loving, evolved version that I can say, which is about 5 years ago. It was right before I started the quantum memoir. There was a group of angry white men upset with me on Facebook about a comment that I made about their ignorance of Native Americans. And it stirred up all kinds of talk that were answers to things. They weren't truths. They were, repeated, history that they were taught in America. So that's fine, whatever. There's debate going about it. But then at some point it came out to like, attacking my character. Like, what do you do for a living? Who are you? Look at your tattoos. Aren't those pretty? But then a backhanded comment at the same time. So like, it really got me, that this question of like, what do you do for a living? It's like, it became a question that I loathed and I hated, because there was a point where I didn't do anything for a living other than live, my life. My husband paid for things. I was building a house when this happened. I built our tiny house. I was building it out on the inside, trying to figure out where are we going to buy land, or where are we going to rent land and move this? How are we going to start this new lifestyle? So it wasn't like I wasn't doing something really valuable and important. But because of the mindset and the state of mind that I was in at the time, and their structure of how they break people down and get them to submit into this colonized, this prison box of who you're supposed to be, their go-to question is, well, what do you do for a living? Like, you must not be very important. Some kind of question about like me staying home, or like, how do I have so much time to be leaving comments on Facebook or something like that? I don't know. Whatever it was, is that they're really trying to stir up that I must not be valuable to like what they've offered the world because I'm not doing anything for a living. Like, they're professors and lawyers and, educated white men. So who is this little white girl with tattoos that's an artist that's not doing anything with her life? So it became very much a catalyst, like I was saying, a catalyst. It was a lesson, a valuable experience that brought, all of this stuff into my life and really changed a paradigm shift for me. So while I'm grateful for those grumpy old white men, they really do have an important point of view to offer, which is, what do you do for a living? You do actually need to do something for a living. And I was doing something for a living. I was taking care of my family and my husband, and that was my income. But because it wasn't like, here's my title and here's my $100,000, annual statement to show you that I'm somehow worthy to society, I couldn't answer that in a way that would satisfy them. It basically, my answer made their point correct. So this is what I want to break. I don't want to live in the world or in an experience with other people that I have to feel that way, or that I would look at marketing in that way. If somebody wants my help or assistance, I want to be able to say, let's look at the reciprocity. Let's look at what you really love doing for a living and sort out how income can come to you without having to sell something for somebody to buy. And that's not saying that they wouldn't give you money for it, but that's not your motive to make money. The motive is that you love to do it. So love what I do. Love what I do. So if that is working at McDonald's, because that's the only place, or the only thing that I can do at this point, because I have obligations to meet and mouths to feed, then you gotta love what you do, right? And so for me, when they asked me that question, I wasn't necessarily loving who I was and what I was doing at that time, even though I believed in the outcome in the future. So it really hit me hard and pushed me to the point of finding something that I love to do and to do it. And so what I'm doing, like just to reiterate, is I'm recognizing how can I bring what I love to do to market and offer it to others in a way that I will receive reciprocity, that I'm not going to overextend myself in a way that I wouldn't have the energy to then give it again to somebody else. So there's something about maintaining, maintenance, maintain. I'm just gonna put maintain. I have to be able to maintain. Yeah, this is good. I have to be able to maintain this energy in order to offer it in the first place. So let's look at this. In order for me to give life force, in order for me to sell something or to be a part of a sell of a larger thing, I have to maintain my energy. And if I give too much of it away in an improper way by overextending myself, then I'm not maintaining the energy to give to the cell that does want to receive it and will do something with it. So I'm really seeing that there's something about boundaries. Okay, yeah. So then if I really think about a cell, that a cell has a boundary. There's a layer, I don't know what it's called, but I bet Train Farb could tell us because he studies this little biology a little bit more. I'm more of like plants. So this is the skin. So I need to have a skin. I need to have a boundary. I'm just gonna write protective skin. And when I think of the skin, I'm not literally thinking of like my body skin. I'm thinking of the furthest most point of the field of me. And even though the field of me is quantum me, it goes forever, it extends into you and any information I extract, with you, through you. It's more so there is a impenetrable aspect that I will not consume anything that is not proper for this cell. So there's this protective skin that would reject, that's not for me. And like I was talking about this resistance, maybe the resistance is that's not for me, but that doesn't mean that it's forever. That might be that it's just not for right now. I'm not capable. I don't have the energy or the all of the steps or the knowledge or wisdom needed to receive that right now. So I really have to be able to be okay with resistance. So I'm going to put work with resistance. So what I'm seeing is that my resistance to market, my resistance to sell quantum memoir or something about quantum memoir is actually a favorable protective skin because I wasn't ready for that. Like if I had done that 4 years ago, it would have been premature. I wouldn't have known all of the things that I know now. I wouldn't have had all of the clarity of the process, and how to show it. Like I've gained a lot from staying on this side of my resistance. So it's almost like a dance. I see. The resistance is a dance of friction that will help you if you are actually willing to give in to the resistance at some point. If you're only holding on to it like a security blanket, then it's not going to benefit you. But if you hold on to your resistance and you do a dance with it and you're constantly questioning it, you're constantly trying to play with different answers for it, then you're able to, you know, have those cells merge with other people, learn from them, they go away, another cell comes in, and then before you know it, you have your own life philosophy. You have a project, you have something that you're building. It's amazing how fast these cycles of time go from months to years. And I really feel like if I look back at everything, I thought it would be more instant. The visions I had of what was going to be happening, I thought it was going to be then. I didn't know that what I saw then was going to take years to, you know, to come to this point. So what I'm hearing me say is to be patient. Be patient. So yeah, you might need to sell, you might need to grow oranges to sell them because you need money. And you don't have the patience or the time to be patient because you need the income now. But in fact, there's going to be some sort of like spectrum that you won't be able to rush whatever it is you're doing to a certain level of success unless it's time for it to grow to that success. Unless you are able to uncover, you know, your resistances on a quicker time scale, on, you know, faster cycles. So like for what I've been doing is like, that's all I do is I focus on what are the blocks that I can maintain my energy so that I can be favorable of the reciprocity and not overextend myself in a way that I wouldn't be able to help the people that actually want to accept the help, knowing that if I help them, they will help the next people and so on, and that there will be income from that. There will be reciprocity from that because it'll be evident that I love to do what I do and that what I do gives a life force to others, and then it also empowers and invigorates me in some way. So that's it right there. The end. Check it out on quantummemoir.com. I'll go ahead and put the finished page and the citations in the collective. Thanks for watching.